And today we are delighted to welcome and be led by the youth of our church. For their vision and for their wisdom and their hope, we are grateful this morning. 9 a.m. was beautiful, and 11 a.m. will be as well. Please note, next week we turn to our summer schedule with one service only each week at 10 a.m. for the rest of the summer through Labor Day. And in 2 weeks, on June 3rd, join us for our annual Flower Communion service at 10 a.m. here in the sanctuary, immediately followed by the annual meeting of the congregation. All are welcome, members and otherwise, to attend this annual ritual and meeting. Welcome to our church. After the service, join us downstairs for refreshments. And before our opening hymn calls us back, I invite to greet those around you.
Throughout the year, we have met on Sundays and on Wednesdays to talk about religion, to talk with one another, and have fun. We have gone service projects, played games, watched movies, raised money, laughed with and cared for one another. I'm not saying that everything was great all the time. There are times that were boring or hard or uncomfortable, but by showing up to RE on Sundays and on Y on Wednesdays evenings all year, we started to build a community. As the American author Kurt Vonnegut says, "What should young people do with their lives today? Many things, obviously, but the most daring thing we can do is create stable communities in which a terrible disease of loneliness can be cured." And we recognize that the communities are not always fun and exciting, but they are worth it. And I'll be reading Flawless by Margaret Wheatley. For far too many years, I wanted to be flawless. Perfecting my pursuits, I bargained for love. For all these many years, I messed of my own doing. Pursuing my perfection, I found I was pursued. And then one day I fell, sprawled, flattened, and lost on the fertile ground of self. Naked in dirt, no masks and no bargains. I raised my soiled face, and there you were. I struggled to stand. Dirt from my body clouded your eyes. Your hand reached for me. Blinded, your hand reached me. There is in all of us a place of pure perfection. We discovered its geography together.
So, here we are. It's the end of the school year. Students everywhere are staring plaintively at the calendar as the first day of summer vacation seems so close. But before it comes, they must survive a gauntlet of tests and projects, last-minute homework assignments, final concerts, sporting events, art exhibitions, and mandatory end-of-school-year socializing. It's enough to stretch anyone to the breaking point, parents included. And yet there are some youth who, when asked, said, "Sure, I'll help put on a youth-led service during the busiest time of my year, and I'll do it with a smile, because nothing would please me more than throwing one more major thing on my plate that's already threatened to smother me." This is the caliber of youth that we have. Over the course of the year, they have planned activities. They have supported one another through challenges. They planned and held fundraisers. They attended cons together and lock-ins. They completed over 100 human hours of community service. They marched in the street, and they had fun doing it. They're an amazing group. But like any amazing group, they also had help. Throughout this year, we've been blessed to have the help and support from Erica Beecher and Kim Edson, Jason Hayes, and Joyce Rude, and Ramona Barr. We also had much support from others, and we'd like to thank those who shared their talents with us this year: Jen Hulsing, the Nodding Wild Onions, Morgan Robertson, and everyone who attended a fundraiser, helped make us treats, or helped us make a lock-in or other activity a success. Thank you. We have learned from everyone's example, and now we would like to give a little something back. The Seekers class this year has been studying about Unitarian Universalism. We spent the first half of the year looking at values commonly held among UUs. The second half, we looked at UU theology. Throughout it, an overarching question was, what does it mean to be UU? Today, we will attempt to share some of our thoughts to begin to answer that. In order to do that, we'll need some of your help. Now, as children and others came into the room, they received some cutouts, like so. These are symbols that correspond to one of the topics that the youth are going to present today. We have a picture over here of a chalice. We're going to use our symbols to light our chalice. Your job today, if you have a cutout, is to listen to the youth, and when they show you their symbol, if yours matches, come up, place it on the chalice, and in this way, every single one of you will help light our chalice today.
Humanism, defined as a system of belief based on the human, placing key importance on us humans, that stresses humans' needs and goodness over that of the supernatural. The real question, however, is not what is humanism, but are we humanist? Well, yes, blatantly yes, overtly yes, we are humanists, in that we place value on the human, the inherent worth and dignity of all people. This draws parallel to the humanist ideal of the importance of the self and the human as a whole. I myself am humanist, believing that the only thing to impact my life and control who I am is myself, a human. I had never really considered the possibility of humanism as a UU until I looked into it and saw how well our beliefs aligned with that of the humanists. Humanists speak on the importance of acknowledging that humans arose not from a garden, but from unguided evolution. One of the key points of humanism is the idea of helping the greater society to help everyone to be happier in the end. This so perfectly aligns with the UU's emphasis on social justice work. The Humanist Manifesto says, progressive cultures have worked to free humanity. While oppression is blatantly in the world, there are always those who seek to fight it. As a UU and as a human, I fight to create a better world for whoever may come. As a UU especially, I see how evidently the humanist and UU movements are so closely linked. Personally, as a UU, I see a perfect conjunction between the two. As a UU, I don't see our faith as that of a religion in the traditional sense. We have our ceremonies and our community, but we are open. Our doors and our arms are open to new ideas or old ideas. Much in this way, the Humanist Manifesto tells of how they have transitioned over the years from a traditional religious organization to that of a community, a place of togetherness and oneness. Both us as humans and as UUs and as humanists are more connected than I ever thought. And in knowing this, I and all of us can reach out and grasp onto both, and not only both, but any religion, doctrine, or teaching we as UUs hold to be true, strong, helpful, or powerful. And in that, if any of you have the hand symbol, come join me as we begin adding to and connecting our web of thought, love, and life.
I will be reading Fortune by Dobby Gibson. The neighbors will soon spread their confounding potluck before you. Dressed in pure garb and socks and sandals, they subscribe to Life magazine to experience the present as if it were the past. Their flowering trees were engineered to not drop fruit. Overhead, constellations of stickers glow from bedroom ceilings. A souvenir of time when life was lived outdoors. All conversations end in silence. The trick is to make it purposeful. It's not going to get any easier, for these are the Cliff Notes.
Community. What is community? Well, according to dictionary.com, community can mean a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Well, what does it mean to be a part of the UU community? The poem that Maria just read, called Fortune, helps us understand what it's like to be a UU. As we look at the line, the neighbors will soon spread the co-founding potluck before you. We can see how potlucks represent UU community and how we, as youth, experience that in our church as we grow up. They symbolize more than just a food gathering, although we all enjoy a good potluck. The author is trying to show us how people have varied perspectives, experiences, and they change at different speeds. A potluck has variety. We, as UUs, are welcoming of many flavors. Think of the spicy vegan grain dish next to the classic crock-pot mac and cheese. Now, this is a great example of the different perspectives within our church. We as UUs like to mix foods together on our plates. This represents the mixing of all of our people and their faiths. You might not think that two dishes would taste good together, but then you try it and you like it. Think of how people differ in their speeds through the potluck line. Some grab just what they want quickly, while others in comparison study every dish and take their time. Some come to our church and dive in 110% right away as UU, while others may take decades to decide that this is their spiritual home. Both paths are welcomed. Toward the end of the poem, the line, "The trick is to make it purposeful," shows what it means to be a UU because we are often functioning through organized chaos. We are a community of purposeful chaos. Without purpose, we are lost. But with purpose and intent, we become strong and form a community that builds each other up. This is exactly why the youth you see are here today. Now, everyone that has a symbol of a tree can please come up and put it on the chalice.
Well, I've noticed that there has been a little mishap in the order of service. I will not be reading 575, New Manifestation. I will be reading 576. If recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are black and I am white, it will not matter. If you are female and I am male, it will not matter. If you are older and I am younger, it will not matter. If you are progressive and I am conservative, it will not matter. If you are straight and I am gay, it will not matter. If you are Christian and I am Jewish, it will not matter. If we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter. In this spirit, we build community and move towards restoration.
morning, everyone. Our faith revolves around 7 important principles. Their purpose is to help guide our congregation and others alike through an ever-changing world while still keeping our UU values. All of our principles are important, but it is especially important and needed to focus on the right of consciousness and the democratic process. Living in times with such volatile political and social environment, it's easy to find issues in the world where the best solution just seems to ignore them. Does it affect you? It could. Is it wrong, legally or morally? It doesn't matter if it's not your problem. But what if it is your problem? As UUs, it is our duty to promote consciousness and the democratic process within ourselves and others. The first part of consciousness is accepting the fact that a problem exists. Then it's time to become active and do something about it. The democratic process is here as a tool and the solution for that. Any issue, small or big, is easier to conquer with people and networking. Help others become aware of the problems around them too, and encourage them to use the democratic process as well. Absence of action during a problem is absence of responsibility. So let us take some responsibility today and change our lives one problem at a time. Thank you, and stay conscious. If any of you guys have this symbol right here, you can walk up and then we'll stick it on the social board.
Today, I want to talk about the threads that bind and connect us to each other through shared experiences, memory, and the people and places we share in common and that sustain us. We UUs refer to this as the interdependent web. In our 7th principle, we covenant to affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. This principle calls us to recognize our connection to the earth and everything in it. Chief Seattle explained it profoundly and sacredly when he said, "We know the sap which courses through the trees, as we know the blood that courses through our veins. We are part of the earth, and it is part of us. The rocky crests, the juices in the meadow, the body heat of the pony, all belong to the same family. This we know. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites us all. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves." As humans, we often take for granted the ways in which this web sustains us. We assume there will be air for us to breathe tomorrow, and land for us to live upon, food for us to eat, and water will continue to run clear from our taps, just as it always has. But we must remember that these are gifts, and we must not squander them carelessly, but instead we should respect and appreciate them if we want to continue to be sustained by them. That is, in essence, what being part of a web means. We sustain each other. It's not a one-sided arrangement. This extends too beyond merely the earthly to the human threads of our web as well. We must sustain our connections to each other. Quality connections, not just connections for the sake of connections. And no, I'm not referring to social media or the World Wide Web. I mean we need to reach out to each other, seek friendships and fellowship and celebrate and grieve together, love and challenge each other. We need human connections to thrive. Today, I'm becoming a member of this congregation. I've belonged here since 2008 when my parents became members, though we attended for a year or so before that. You welcomed me. You connected to me. I became part of this UU web. I have memories of holiday parties, RE classes, youth cons, best friends that also attend this church, chalice camps, my coming of age, weddings, memorial services, maypoles, flower communions, my own child dedication, attending Youth Midwest Leadership School, all of it. I have friends here of every age. Daryl Waters taught me how to make lefse. Frank Druktanis let me interview him for a school project. Carol Ann Wallace asked me to help in the library before she passed away. Joyce Rude was a reference for me. Marge Dalen was my COA mentor. Jean Hansen invited me to join her and her granddaughter for a visit to the Spam Museum. I've had interactions with countless others of you, but I wanted to illustrate the many ways in which this community has sustained me and how these connections may seem minor or unimportant, but together they create sacred connections and help us find the holy in the everyday. When I read my credo for coming of age, my grandma Harf was here. She's Lutheran and had never experienced a service like that before. She was just overwhelmed by the support of the entire congregation for each youth's credo. You're so proud of the youth, and it's so apparent, not just by the clapping after each credo we read, but she saw you each approach the youth and express your awe and appreciation for their credos at the reception afterward. It was something my grandma had a hard time fathoming. She couldn't have imagined that in her own church growing up. She was truly impressed by this church community. For me, it is the only church community I've ever known, and I can't fathom any other kind of church community for me. You've wound me up in this web of ours, and now you're stuck with me. Would anyone with a butterfly please come place it on the chalice?
Throughout the year, we hold classes for newcomers to learn about our church and its history, find ways to get involved, meet others also interested in becoming members. And today we get to welcome some youth members to our church who have been growing up in this church home, who know our values since their early days and are now saying, "Yes, you are my people." When we welcome new members, it's a seemingly simple act, putting pen to paper, saying a name, signing a name, and saying welcome, but it's more than that. So I want to invite our new members joining today to come up behind the chalice table. Something more powerful happens than it seems here. It's a commitment of hearts to hearts, of joining into a community, of reconsecrating our commitment to these youth and to one another, honoring new souls in the family of this church and in the larger family of Unitarian Universalism and the even larger family of all things. I want you to know that this church is a home for your soul, something that you've known for a long time already, that these are your people. Look out here. Whether you like it or not, these are your people. These two are your people, your peers behind you. Together we will grow our spirits and we will practice justice in forgiveness and grace, in strength and resilience, we will live lives of meaning and service together. Here's some reflections from the youth.
Cole Beecher says, I have always been a member of this church, but now I am old enough to officially join and start giving back to this wonderful place. Ethan Egler joined at the 9 o'clock service. He said, this is the family that raised me as much as my own nuclear family. I belong here as much as I belong anywhere, and this place has shaped me like no other. Autumn Harf says, I'd like to become a member because this is a family I'm actually proud to be a part of. Ha ha, love you, Mom and Dad. And Teresa Calamus, I have been going through this church now for over a decade. I know, I'm so old. And I have appreciated the way that people are allowed to voice their own opinions at this church, especially on controversial topics. I have also come to love the people who are involved with the church, and by becoming a member, I hope to stay connected to such a loving community.
So I invite the congregation to now rise in body or spirit. You'll find the litany of welcome on the back cover of your order of service. And the congregation begins. We welcome you into this congregation and into the larger circle of Unitarian Universalism. We welcome your story, your identity, and the gifts that you bring. May you find here a home for your soul and the new members.
We gladly join with you as members of this church. We will offer our gifts as we are able to the flourishing and well-being of this community and support the values of this congregation: hospitality, compassion, spiritual growth, and justice.
And all together. We covenant to travel together in this religious community. Here may we be affirmed for who we are and challenged to be our best selves. Here may we grow our souls, care for each other and the earth, nurture spiritual growth, practice justice, and together lead lives of meaning, service, and love. So as this congregation of which you are now joining sings a blessing to you, which is hymn number 1 in your gray hymnal, I invite you to sign this membership book, which holds the names of 150 years of people who have made the same commitment to the thriving and vibrancy of this church. And I invite you to also notice the names, or the lines that are blank after your name, those who are yet to come, those who have still not found our doors, those who are children that are not even a glint in any of these people's eyes yet. This is a community that spans generations that you now join. So we'll sing together hymn number 1, all 4 verses, instead of just the middle 2, or the middle ones as listed in the order of service.
What is a covenant? Think of it as a promise and a commitment. I see it as giving a part of yourself to accomplish what we as UUs say we are going to do. As both those UUs, young and old, we learn to covenant to confirm and promote our 7 principles.
Per the UUA, covenant is the silk that joins Unitarian Universalist congregations, communities, and individuals together in a web of interconnection. The practice of promising to walk together is the precious core of our creedless faith. Covenant is both a verb and a noun. It can be a written agreement among individual community members, promising to behave in certain ways, and it can mean to engage in mutual promises with spirit, with other people, and communities.
All of us, as children who attended religious education classes, agree on covenants to make rules for each classroom. We continue to make covenants at Child's Camp, at lock-ins, and at cons. We learn at an early age about making commitments to higher standards, to be a better self, to uphold our UU promises. I think that this repetitive ritual has helped us grow up and mature. We have been taught and now know that it is not just about going through the motions. One main idea I have taken from the idea of covenant is that we promise to actually do something with our UU faith. You may have heard that UUs are here for deeds, not creeds. Any of the youth you see here today will tell you what they have learned about service, about giving back. We have promised and acted to help others through service projects. We have spoken up for and marched for those that are oppressed. Today, I have solidified my covenant again by becoming a member of this church. We know, as youth, that we covenant to our principles as a UU community. We will be stronger and get more done. I think that this is the point, don't you? And now, those that have the blue heart may come up and add it to our growing chalice.
I invite you, as you're comfortable, to join hands next to you. Place a hand on a shoulder or place your hand on your heart. And breathe deep the breath of life. Wow, said a modern prophet. That's a lot. It takes a lot to build up a world. It takes a lot to light up a community. It takes a lot to pay attention to the depth of wisdom from this generation and generations gone by and generations to come of human goodness, of interconnection, of justice and our values made real in the world. It takes a lot, but then it lights up the whole world. Amen.